Oh, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam Puranamuninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayanim Amba Tvamanusandanami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramopaniषदैः Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthitatadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. So, in spirituality, there is a very famous phrase called all of you go or nothing of you go. So in the spiritual journey, we have to carry everything with us, the body, the mind, the intellect, the vasanas, the reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa. Every aspect of my personality has to grow simultaneously. You cannot expect, okay, intellectually I know this knowledge, but physically I don't do anything, or emotionally I don't grow. Like last week, we had talked about the fast train and the passenger train. And you cannot say that on the fast train, only I put my body, but my mind and intellect is somewhere else. Or my intellect is there, my mind is. I have to totally be that, in that spiritual progress. So what does that mean? Say, first of all, I have to get the right knowledge, which, with Gurudev's grace, with all the teachers' grace, we are getting the right knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Then we have to practice these values which develop love for God, Mayi chananya yogena bhakti ravya vicharini. So continuous love. And with my body, I have to serve. So amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam. I should have love and compassion for all. I should not have ego. So all aspects of my personality have to grow on this spiritual path. I cannot think that once I know the knowledge, it's not enough. Then I have to go out and serve. And what do we mean by service? Give time. find a place where you can give your time, find maybe somewhere where you can give your emotions. There's somebody who needs emotional support, is depressed, is sad, go help them. Financially, one must give because we get so much from society. So either you find a good organization you can support, or maybe there is a young family, where the children need to go to college and they don't have money, they are hardworking. So all aspects of my personality have to be involved in service, in love, and in knowledge. It cannot be otherwise. My growth is not complete. And even if one aspect of your personality has been left behind, spiritually you won't grow. You cannot say, okay, once I know I am Brahman, I have read all the scriptures, I can chant, I can even teach, I can do classes. That's not enough unless you change all aspects of your personality. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita tells us, that by practicing these values, which we have studied, these 20 values, I develop my personality intellectually, emotionally, and physically. And now from today, we are starting a somewhat difficult aspect of the 13th chapter. Starting today, the next 6 shlokas take us on the path of knowledge. And what is the path of knowledge? The highest knowledge of, what is this Brahman. Remember, he had said jnanam and neyam. So jnanam is, he says, the practicing of these values will get you ready for knowledge. And then what is the knowledge? That Bhagwan will tell us today, because even in the earlier, he had only said kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. So what is that kshetrajnam? What is that knower of the field? And what is it that alone needs to be known will be told today. So we'll start with chapter 13, verse number 13. Very auspicious, beautiful verse, because it gives us the highest knowledge from 13 to 18. And I'll go very slowly because the ideas in this 6 texts are very subtle. So I'll try my best to explain, because it is, even for, I find it difficult to understand, but I'll try my best. I hope I can. Chapter 13, verse 13. Neyam yattat pravakshyami
Yeyam yatat pravakshyami
yajñatvamritam
yajnatva
anadimat param brahma
anadimat param brahma
na sattanna saduchyate.
sattannata saduchyate.
You can please mute. We'll all chant together. Neyam yattat pravakshyami yajñatvamritam ashnute anadimat param brahma na sattanna saduchyate. So he says, Neyam, that which is to be known. Right now we have studied what the values. Now what is to be known? Neyam. What is the purpose of life? What is the goal of life? Yat tat pravakshyami. So that which is to be known, I will tell you. Yat tat pravakshyami. Vakshyami is a future tense of to speak. Vakshyami means I will tell you. Pravakshyami means prakarshena vakshyami. I will tell you very clearly. Even though this nature of Brahman is very difficult to explain, but who better can explain than Brahman himself? So Bhagavan Sri Krishna was manifestation of Brahman. So he's talking about himself. And he says, Neyam yatat pravakshyami. I will tell you in detail. Yet, and what is the benefit of that? Why should I sit every Sunday morning and listen to you, Bhagavan? He says, Yat nyatva, having known this, amritam ashnute. Ashnute means enjoys. Ashnute actually means eats, but here it means to experience, to enjoy amritam. So this person enjoys immortality. Amritam means immortality. Yat nyatva. Knowing this, you will experience immortality. And who is this Brahman that we are talking about? Bhagavan says, Anadimat. Anadimat means beginningless. There is no beginning of it, and it's Param. It's the Supreme Brahman. And na Sat, Tat, na Asat Uchyate. So this na Sat and na Asat Uchyate actually has 5 sandhis. It's a very interesting word. In one word, Sat, Bhagwan has put 5 sandhis. Na Sat, Tat, na Asad Uchyate. 5 words have been put. What it means is it is neither Sat nor Asat. Uchyate means said to be. So it is neither manifest nor unmanifest. It's neither existing nor non-existing. Wait a minute, Bhagwan. Didn't you tell me it is existence? Bhagwan said, no, it is neither existence nor non-existence. So what is it? Who is this Brahman? You're saying it is neither existing nor non-existing. Can you please explain? So we'll spend some time in talking about. So when our idea is of known, Bhagavan says, I will tell you that which is to be known. So what do we know? So he says people spend a lot of time in learning about the world. Like you ask them about cricket, a cricket fan, he'll know all the facts. How many centuries Tendulkar has hit, how many centuries Gavaskar has hit, Dennis Lilly in Australia, how many wickets he has taken, or a football fan, he will know Joe Montana, how many touchdowns he has made, Jerry Rice, Aaron Rodgers. So, or I know a lot of math and chemistry and physics, and I'm a PhD in physics and math, and I'm a professor at Harvard. So they say all that is good. It's not that, but that does not remove the fundamental error in life. So I'll explain by a beautiful example. So there was this couple who say grew up wherever, you can say Chennai or Hyderabad or somewhere. And so they got married, and as it happens, in marriage, there are fights occasionally. So this couple used to fight in their regional language. So they were fighting in Tamil because they grew up in Chennai, or I don't mean any particular, could be Hyderabad, could be Gujarat, but they were fighting in their regional language. And then they came to the United States and they both learned English. They didn't know English before. Now they started fighting in English. Then they joined Chinmaya Mission and they learned Sanskrit. So now when they're fighting in Sanskrit. After a while, they both went to music lessons. They took music. They became good singers. Now when they're fighting in ragas, using different ragas to fight. And then they said, then they taught their children music. And so the children learned piano, violin. So when they were fighting in ragas, the children were playing the instruments. So the point is, the fundamental problem was not removed, that they were fighting. See, you can be fighting in Tamil or English or Sanskrit, but until you remove the fundamental problem, all you're doing is changing the circumstances. You are changing the situations. The fundamental problem is in this relationship is what they fight. So similarly, we try to change our externality. I know so much, biology. I am a good doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. I'm a double PhD. But the fundamental ignorance of who I am, until you remove that, your life will not change. You will remain finite and miserable. Right now, I am finite and miserable. After I get a double PhD, I'll be a double PhD finite and miserable. So it is this knowledge of who I am that will remove your fundamental ignorance. And without that, removing that ignorance, just trying to change, you buy a bigger house, you live on a country club, you have a better car, all that is good, nothing is wrong. But until you change your fundamental problem, you will. So that's what Bhagwan is telling. I will tell you what is really to be known, not what it's like. It's like you go to Buffalo, in upstate New York. You go to Buffalo, New York, and from California, Los Angeles, you flew and you come back and your friend asks you, you went to Buffalo, what did you do? Oh, I stayed at my friend's house. We went to dinner to nice restaurants. We went sightseeing and we went to see the lakes and we went boating. So he says, did you see Niagara Falls? He says, no, Niagara Falls. They didn't take me to Niagara Falls. Well, then your trip to Buffalo was wasted. You need to go back. Or you go to Paris and you say, I didn't see the Eiffel Tower. You wasted your trip. So same way, Bhagwan will tell you that I sent you there with this body, mind, intellect. I even gave you knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. I myself came and gave you this knowledge, and then I sent Swami Chinmayananda and Swami Vivekananda and Swami Tejomayananda ji and all these acharyas to teach you, and you still came back without knowing me. You wasted your trip. Go again. He'll buy you another return ticket. Again, you enter in some mother's womb and start again the whole journey. And next time you don't get, third time, fourth time, 8.4 million births, 84 lakh yoni we have gone through. So it is enough. So this life, we have this knowledge. So that's what Bhagavan says. That is alone to be known. And that is what I will tell you. But we say, Bhagwan, but I did so much. I made this big internet company. I sold it for 100 million. All that is good, but that is not the purpose of human birth. That is not Nayam. That is all so changing your circumstances from fighting in English to your fighting in Sanskrit. But the basic error is not removed. So Nayam yattat pravakshyami. I will tell you very clearly, Bhagwan says. And what is the benefit of knowing this knowledge? What is the benefit? Why should we know it? So, yat jnatva, knowing which, amritam ashnute, you will enjoy immortality. So, our idea of immortality is that I will live forever in this body, and that's not going to happen. See, whoever is born has to go through Shad Vikaras, Asti, Jati, Vardate, Parinamyate, and Kshayate and Vinashyati. So I am in my mother's womb, then I'm born, then I grow, then I modify, then I decay and I die. So if you are born, other five will come. Or you cannot say I want to be born, but I do not want to go through modifications. And the first modification is birth, last modification is death. So when we say immortality does not mean, so if you want to give up death, you have to give up all six. You can't say I don't want to die, but I still want to have the other five. No, once I have one, I have to have all six. So all six is a package deal. You can't say I only want this and I don't want the rest. So what they say is that as long as you are born, you will perish. So when they mean immortality in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, when you say you will attain immortality, means I was never born. If I was born, I will perish. But who is born? This body is born. And this body is meant to perish. So as long as I think I am this body, I will perish. So when Amrita means I was never born. I, the Atma, the consciousness, was never born. That's what Bhagavan started in the second chapter itself. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. You were never born and you will never perish. Arjuna, the body will go. Even Bhagavan Krishna, when he came as the body, he had to drop his body. Bhagavan Sri Ram, Jesus Christ, Buddha, they all dropped their body. But their consciousness is eternal. That's what Bhagavan says. You, me, and all these kings, we were never born and we will never perish. There was never a time we were not there, and there was never a time we will not be there. So that is called immortality, and that is called Amritam Ashnute. But whatever is matter is bound to perish. So that is, we have to understand. But then you say, Bhagwan, you say it is neither existing nor non-existing. It's neither present nor absent. So the idea is that it is neither manifest nor non-manifest, either manifest nor unmanifest. So you say it's not manifest? No. It's not unmanifest? No. So then what is it? So the idea is that something, say I was unmanifest before, and then I entered my mother's womb, and then I became manifest. So as unmanifest is also, I was there in the unmanifest state. You can say whether I was in heaven or hell or wherever I was, but the individuality, the jiva was there unmanifest and became manifest. So Bhagavan is not a jiva. It's not something which was unmanifest and becomes manifest. So something that was unmanifest will become manifest, but that which was always there, how can you say whether manifest or unmanifest? You can't say sat or asat, right? Or something that which is which I don't know. And for example, let me give you an example. My brother-in-law Rajiv, who is in Thousand Oaks, I say, is he in this class or he's not in this class? Well, we don't know who your brother-in-law is. How can we say whether he's in this class or he's not? Because we have never seen him. Maybe some of you have, maybe Lata, but somebody who has never seen him, who doesn't know who he is, cannot say whether asti or na asti. Is he or is he not in this class? You can't tell because you don't know him. So similarly, Brahman, we don't know who that is. Brahman cannot be described, Brahman cannot be understood. So you cannot say whether Brahman is or is not. To say is or is not, you have to know who that person is. Is that clear? Am I making myself clear? If I don't know who Brahman is, how can I say whether Brahman exists or does not exist, whether he is or he is not? These are difficult concepts, so please pay attention. Even if we don't get it, think about it, listen to it again, and these ideas will be repeated in subsequent shlokas. So please don't get discouraged. I'm trying my best to make it simple. So you cannot say Brahman is or Brahman is not. The moment you say Brahman is, that means I can see him. You can't see Brahman. You cannot feel it, you cannot touch it, you cannot hear it, you cannot smell it, you cannot know it, you cannot describe it. That's why they say yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. So you say you cannot know it, no. You cannot feel it, no. You cannot touch it, no. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it. Then how am I to know it? Bhagwan, you are saying that is to be known. So Bhagwan says, as long as you try to know Brahman as an object, you will never know it. You cannot say like the sun is standing in front of me, I see it. The moon I see. So Brahman will not be standing in front and I do namaskar, oh but Brahman, not like that. Yeah, Bhagavan Krishna can. If you have that much faith in Bhagavan as a form, appear. And in the scriptures they show. Then in the Puranas, Bhagavan Krishna appeared, Vishnu appeared, Brahmaji appeared, Lord Shiva appeared. So if you think of God as a particular form, yes, that will manifest. Like for Ramakrishna Paramahans, he could see Mother Goddess. But if you are trying to know Brahman, that is the subject, that is the knower of your mind and intellect. Your mind and intellect cannot know it, but that can know your mind and intellect. So then how am I to know that? If it's not an object, it is the subject, it is the knower of your mind and intellect. So we say, how do you know it? Through meditation. So how many of you meditate every day? I know some of you have your cameras turned off, but those who do not meditate every day, you will not know Brahman. You will not know this truth unless you meditate every day. That's very, very important. And listening is good. Contemplating upon is good, but abiding in this knowledge that Brahman is me, is my higher nature. Meditation is the prime, the best way to know the truth. Everything else is all secondary. If you are not meditating every day, in my opinion, it is impossible to know this truth. So that's my recommendation, that everybody should meditate on the right things. Who am I? What is my nature? If you wish, on the Gita, on this website, on the app, I can put the talks on meditation, what, why, when, where, how, and then everybody start meditating every day on who am I, what is my true nature, what am I really. That is what we meditate on. Most meditation just talk about how to quieten the mind, watch your breath, relax your body, chant mantra, all that is good, but ultimately I have to know who I really am. And that's what the Upanishads tell us, that's what the Bhagavad Gita. So you abide in this knowledge, first of all 20 minutes or half an hour every day, and then throughout the day make this firm understanding that I am not this body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am that consciousness. So constant abidance in this knowledge is called meditation. So formal meditation, doing some amount every morning, and then throughout the day abiding in this knowledge is called nididhyasanam. So Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasanam is abiding in this. So start by just doing 20 minutes every day, but then slowly this knowledge should become secondary to you. Just as I know that I am a man or a woman, I am a Indian or American or white or brown or black, I should know I am Brahman. So this knowledge, when it becomes my knowledge, that is called the subject. That is who I really am. That is the essence of this knowledge. And that is what meditation will give us, will tell you that you are that, and then you can abide in that. So constant reminding yourself, constant remembrance, but it has to start with some amount of formal meditation. That's my personal opinion. Maybe others in this group may have different ideas. At the end we can talk about, but I suggest that do some regular meditation and then abide in this truth throughout the day. Just as 24 hours a day I know I am Lata or Kusum, 24 hours a day I should know I am Brahman. So that is abidance in this knowledge. So that's why they say Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasan. Listen, contemplate, and then abide in this knowledge. So it is the subject because of which I know who I am. This body I am, this mind I am, this intellect I am. So it is the knower that knows everything. So that's why they say, no, God knows everything. God knows everybody. So when God is everything, God is everywhere, then God and I are not separate. Not that I am God, but that God alone is everywhere, including me. So constant abidance in this truth, in my opinion, is essential for spiritual progress. So that is one aspect, that it is the subject, it is the knower. This same idea will be repeated in additional shlokas. So it is the knower which knows that I am Anil, I am a male, I am talking, I am walking, I am seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. Everything is because of that. Secondly, why do we say Brahman is not an object? We say Brahman is not an object to be known, but it is the subject, because in one of the commentaries I heard, any object in this world, any object has 5 qualities: kriya, guna, kriya, jati, sambandha, nama. So guna means it has to have certain qualities, right? You can say it is blue or red, it is short or tall, it is black or white, it is male or female. That are all gunas. Then kriya. Kriya means what activities does it do? Is it a doctor or an engineer, or is it a homemaker, or is it a computer programmer, business owner? So that is kriya. What does it do? Then jati. What is its class? Like say you have a dog. Now the dog can have certain, it can be a Labrador, it can be a golden retriever, it can be an Alsatian, or it can be among cats. There are different jatis of cats. Even among humans, there are different jatis. We say there is somebody is a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, but that is not by birth but by qualification. Like Somebody may be an intellectual, somebody may be a worker, somebody may be a business owner. So that is called Kriya, Jati Kriya, as Guna Kriya Jati. Then Sambandha. Sambandha means relationship. So like I say, bring me that book. So we say, which book? That book which is on the table, the second book from the top. So that becomes Sambandha, that there is a book which is on the table. Or like, do you know my friend? He said, no, I don't know this man. He says, yeah, but you know his son, because his son goes to the same school as your son. You know him? Yeah. So his father. So then you develop a sambandha, And the fifth one is nama. Nama means the name. Like you say, what is the name of, say, the father of India? She said Mahatma Gandhi. Then you don't need to say which Gandhi, what Gandhi. There's only one Mahatma Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, or John F. Kennedy. You don't need to say who was John F. Kennedy. Everybody knows, by the name. Or Donald Trump. You don't need to describe. So they are all, it's just the name alone is enough. Or Albert Einstein, or great Sachin Tendulkar. Yeah, just the name is enough. You don't need to say Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer who had scored hundreds of centuries. Not so. These are the 5 descriptions: Guna, Kriya, Jati, Sambandha, and Nama. Does Brahman have any guna, any qualities? Is it blue or black or red or white or black or short? No. Does it have any kriya? Does it do any activities? No, Brahman doesn't do anything. In the presence of Brahman, this world is created by Maya, but Brahman itself has no kriya. Does it have any jati? Does it have any caste? Is it Brahman or Kshatriya? Is it Negro or black or African American or Asian? No, none of these. Does it have any sambandha? Are there a lot of Brahmans and it is one of those, or it is related to other Brahmans, or there is a group of Brahmans? No. Does it have any nama? Well, we give the name Brahman, but that even is just a name given by the Upanishads. Actually, Brahman does not have any name. So none of these 5 qualities describe Brahman. So Brahman cannot be described, cannot be put in a particular category or a particular name, but it is the knower, it is the subject. So these next 5 shlokas will slowly explain who this Brahman is. And does it do any particular activity? No. Like if you ask a homemaker, a housewife, what is your salary? What are your hours? What do you do? She says, I have no salary. I have no hours. I don't do anything specific, but in my presence, everything happens. See, if the housewife is gone, the house will fall apart. So even though she gets no salary, no hours, she has no particular, this job is yours and this job is not yours. Like in a company I go, they say, okay, you are the salesman, you are the personnel manager, you are the product manager. But housewife, she has no particular classification, but everything happens in her presence. If she is not there, the house falls apart. Even if she's gone for a week, the poor husband is lost. So similarly, Brahman does not have any particular function, but in the presence of Brahman, this whole universe is functioning. So that's why they say that if you want to describe Brahman, see the qualities of a homemaker, housewife, how she functions without any ego, without any that. So that is called. Ultimately, you have to understand that this Brahman is I, me. I am that consciousness, and it is the subject that is the knower. So that's why they say Brahman does not have any particular, and you cannot say it exists or not exists, because those are all concepts of the intellect. So it is beyond intellect. When the intellect becomes still in meditation, the mind becomes quiet, then slowly this truth reveals itself. So that is the essence of this shloka. I don't know if I was able to explain much, but I tried my best. So we'll go to the next one. which further Bhagavan will describe his own nature. So shloka number 14. Sarvatah panipadam tata
सर्वतः पाणिपादं ततः
sarvatokshikshirommukham
सर्वतोक्षिक्षिरोमुखम्
sarvatah shrutimaloke
सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके
sarvamavritya tishtati.
सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति.
So shloka 14, you can mute. Sarvatah panipadam tata sarvatokshishirommukham sarvatah shrutimaloke sarvamavritya tishtati. So one thing I have to understand about Brahman, it is sarvatah. It is everywhere. There is nowhere where Brahman is not. So Bhagavan immediately says, I am everywhere. Not only I am everywhere, but sarvata pani padam tata. All hands and feet are I am. I am all hands and feet. All hands and feet are mine. All hands, yes. All feet, yes. They are all mine. And then sarvata akshi, eyes. Shira, heads. Mukha, faces. So all hands and feet are mine, all eyes are mine, all mouths are mine, all heads are mine. I am in all hands, in all feet, in all eyes, in all mouths, in all heads. Sarvataha Shruti-mat, and I am all the years in this world. And Sarvam Avritya, enveloping, covering everything, Tishtati. So this Brahman has all the hands, all the feet, all the eyes, all the ears, all the heads, all the mouths, and everywhere. So, when we see this, or when we think of this, or when artists think about it, what they do, they make this one picture of Bhagwan, and he has 1,000 heads. In Purush Suktam, it has Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat. So this God has 1,000 hands and 1,000 feet and 1,000 heads and 1,000 mouths. It sounds ridiculous, right? How can one being have 1,000 heads and 1,000 mouths? And it is a very strange description. That there is one being who has 1,000 eyes, 1,000 heads. We think this is some unnatural creature. So talking about many eyes, you have heard that song, right? Maybe you haven't heard it, but there was a very famous Beatles song, I Want to Hold Your Hand. I Want to Hold Your Hand. This was very famous in the 60s. And it was the #1 hit for many, many months all over the world. So you know what male octopus told a female octopus? I want to hold your hand, 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 hand. So I know it's a kid's joke, but it's quite funny. So we think like that. Brahman has 1,000 hands. That is and then all these pictures. So when they say Brahman has 1,000 hands, what it means is all hands are Brahman's hands. So when I am moving my hand, it is Brahman moving the hand. When I'm speaking, it is Brahman speaking. When I'm seeing, it is Brahman seeing. When I'm hearing, it is Brahman hearing. When I'm smelling, tasting, touching. So the point is that any activities I am doing at any time, it is Brahman and Brahman alone. Brahman is thinking, Brahman is talking, Brahman is walking, Brahman is thinking. Without Brahman's presence, I cannot do anything, because these organs of mine, they are matter, they are inert matter. They have existence. And where do I get this existence from? Brahman, right? Brahman is existence. Without Brahman, I would not exist. So existence comes from Brahman. And then the next aspect of Brahman is consciousness. And where does consciousness come? From Brahman. The fact that I'm able to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, walk, talk, think, everything is happening because of Brahman's presence. So Brahman is the one that has my hand. So when I say that, when I'm speaking, then Brahman is speaking. If I truly believe that, then I won't speak untruth. If I truly am doing God's work, my work will become pure. Then I won't have ego or doership. So that's why they say Brahman alone is existence, consciousness, and Ananta. It is infinite. Because that's why Tripad Urdhva Udhait Purushaha Pado Avad Punaha Tato Vishwam Akramata Sashana Nashane Abhi. So Purush Suktam says that one part of Brahman became this universe, three parts is beyond, and this one part of Brahman again and again becomes creation and then merges back. So all living and non-living objects come from Brahman, but very small aspect. Then in my body also, everything is the creator. Brahmano mukham asit, Bahu Rajanya Kritaha Uru Tadasya Yad Vaishyaha Padvyagam Shudro Ajayata. So my head, my ability to think is Brahman. My ability to work is Brahman. My ability to talk, my ability to procreate, multiply, and walk, everything comes from Brahman. And that's why they say Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, all castes came from Brahman, but Brahman himself is beyond all castes, beyond all. So it is infinite, just like space. Space is everywhere. In space, all the objects exist. The world exists, all the planets exist, even the pot exists, the room exists, this house exists, this whole earth exists, but space is beyond all objects, right? Space is inside and outside. We'll talk in the next shloka. So that is even beyond space. So that is Brahman. And it is pervading everywhere. Like, is there any place where space is not? No, space is everywhere. But Arjuna had this wrong idea that I want to see Brahman in that form, this huge form with all those heads and all that. And when he saw it, he got scared because he saw this huge form with all the creation happening and the destruction happening and people dying and this horrible. And then he said, no, Bhagavan, I don't want to see this. I want your Saumya Roop. I just want. So you and I are not able to handle that. That's why Bhagavan has made these gentle images of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Sri Rama, Mother Saraswati, Mother Lakshmi, these beautiful images that we can associate with, we can connect with it. So, but Brahman is non-dual. All this multiplicity you are seeing is like a movie or like a play. Actually, Brahman alone is. All these names and forms are illusion upon that one consciousness. Just as upon that screen the movie is playing, so I do whatever role I have been assigned. It's not that I don't exist, but my true nature is Brahman. But I have taken a name as Varsha or Satish or Harsha. These are my name and form. But actually, my true nature is Brahman and Brahman alone, which is everywhere. Everything is happening because of Brahman. Everything is existing. Just as when I go to the ocean, everything I see is water, right? And then I give different names. I say this is a wave, this is a whirlpool, this is a bubble, this is foam, this is a small wave, big wave, medium wave, but the essence of all is water. So the essence of all of us is that Brahman, and that is me, not separate from me. So that I have to understand that alone I am, and upon this Brahman, this universe is existing. But I'm not going to be able to see Brahman like I see the sun and the moon, but I have to know as my own true nature. In Bal Vihar, we have a song, Krishna here, Krishna there, Krishna, Krishna everywhere. God is one, God is one, God is one for everyone. So, and then next they say Shiva here, Shiva there, Lakshmi here. So the point is that Brahman alone is everywhere in all these names and forms. I'll try. We'll do one more shloka, and this will explain this a little bit further. Shloka number 15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam
सर्वेन्द्रिय गुणाभासम्
Sarvendriya vivarjitam
सर्वेन्द्रिय विवर्जितम्
Asaktam sarvabhrichaiva
असक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव
Nirgunam gunabhoktra cha.
निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च.
So, all chant together. Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhrichaiva Nirgunam gunabhoktra cha. So, sarva indriya. Indriya means all sense organs and all organs of action. So, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, walking, talking, speaking, moving, all that. Guna bhasam. It is shining through all the sense organs. That means through the eyes it is seeing, through the ears it is hearing, and same so on. Sarvendriya guna abhasam. It is shining. But sarvendriya vivarjitam. Varjitam means without. Vivarjita means completely without. Means Bhagwan himself, Brahman himself has no indriyas, but functions through all the indriyas. See, the spirituality to describe Brahman, our rishis use contradictory terms so that our intellect should go beyond intellect. Because intellectually you can only reach so far, then that's why these words are called indicators, because Brahman cannot be described, can only be indicated in the words of contradiction, in the words of no, not, it's not, it's not. So I'll talk about it. Sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam. Asaktam means unattached. Sarvabhrit, it supports everything. Nirgunam, without any gunas, but guna bhoktricha, but enjoys all gunas. So does it have any gunas? No. Is it existing? No. Is it non-existing? No. Is it black? No. Is it white? No. Is it inside? No. It is outside? No. Because these are all concepts of, that's why na iti, na iti. It's not this, not this, not this. Whatever I know as this, it is not. And when the mind becomes still, when nothing can be explained, then in that silence, it is experienced. That's why they say mauna vyakya. It can be only experienced in silence. So in meditation, we try to quieten our mind with that right understanding of who I am. So that's what they say, that Brahman itself does not have any qualities, but all qualities are existing because of Brahman. So Sarvendriya Gunabhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarjita means all senses function because of Brahman, but Brahman itself is without any senses. Means does not have any parts, because the moment I say I have a hand and a feet, and these are my parts, right? Hand and my feet and my eyes and my nose, these are all my aspects, my parts, my segments. But Brahman is said to be partless, cannot be divided, cannot be described, does not have any gunas, does not have any qualities. That's why Tulsi Das ji in his Ramayana, he says, Pag bina chalahi, sunehu bina kana, kar bina karahi, Karma Vidhi Nana. So Bhagwan does everything without doing anything, walks without feet, listens without ears. So the point is that Tulsidas ji uses the words of bhakti, but through bhakti gives us knowledge. That's what we listen every Tuesday. Those of you who are not logging in, Tuesday 8 to 9, please listen to Swami Tejomaya Nanda ji, because Ramayana is explained very well. So best example is electricity, because electricity itself does not do anything, right? Does electricity do anything? No. But when there is a small bulb, it will manifest as 1 watt bulb. When there is a 1,000 watt bulb, it manifests as 1,000 watt bulb. There's a heater, it manifests as heat. There's an air conditioner, it manifests as as cooling. When there is a computer, so depending on the equipment, electricity will do different things, but by itself electricity doesn't do anything. It depends on the equipment, depends on my machinery that I'm using. So similarly, Brahman itself is said to be nirguna, said to not have any qualities, but Brahman supports all activities. It nourishes all. Sarva Brit. So how can it nourish? When you say Brahman does not do anything, it nourishes by providing the things that we need. For example, we get oil from the ground, right? Who provided that? Before God created us, provided oil in the ground and then gave us the intelligence. You have to dig for oil, take it out, and then you can heat your home, you can run your car. Then it provides water in the form of rain, but water is somewhere else. Then I have to build a canal, I have to build a track so the water can go from the river to my house. So I have to do my part, but Brahman makes the opportunities for me to live in this universe. So all things are provided by God, but I have to put my purushartha. Brahman is not going to bring electricity to my house. I have to connect to the wire. I have to, generate electricity. So that's what they say, that Brahman is the one that makes everything happen, yet does not do anything. Brahman is just like electricity does not run the motor, but in the presence of electricity, the motor runs. It's little difficult concept to grasp, and that's why repeated study of the Bhagavad Gita will help, and these ideas will keep coming in different Upanishads. It is there in different classes. So Bhagwan is the nourisher, but itself does not have any gunas like sattva, rajas, and tamas. The three gunas are there. Does God have any of those three gunas? No. But because of God's presence, the three gunas function. Like when I'm listening, it is sattva. Then when I'm working, it is rajas. When I'm sleeping, it is tamas. But God is beyond all three gunas. And also, God is not attached. It is unattached, but supports all. Like suppose there is a mirror. Suppose I go and stand in front of a mirror wearing a red shirt. The mirror will show red, right? But if I leave, will the mirror hold on to the red? No, the red shirt will be gone. Next time I go with a blue shirt, the mirror will show blue. Next time two of us are in front of the mirror, mirror will show two. Some next time three. Mirror shows everything, supports. Without the mirror, I wouldn't be able to see my image. But the mirror does not hold on to the image, right? Is that clear? So Brahman is the one that is the supporter of everything, but unattached, does not hold on, like a camera of a cell phone. Today you take a camera of your child, and then tomorrow you take off your dog, and then third day you go for a sightseeing, you take a picture of the valley or the mountain, or the camera won't say, oh, I love the mountain picture, I'll take a picture of mountain, and then tomorrow you take a picture of some dirt outside your house because the government hasn't cleaned it. You take a picture of that and send it to the city government. The camera won't say, I'm not going to take a picture of the dirt. I'll only take a picture of the clean things. Camera will support all pictures, but itself does not hold on to these pictures. So that is the idea, that it is like the mirror, it is like the camera which supports everything, but is not itself doing anything. But what happens is that, not understanding that, I become the enjoyer, bhokta. Because I'm the doer, I become the enjoyer. So when I go to watch a movie, instead of seeing the movie as a movie, when the hero is winning and he's beating the villain, I get happy. But when the hero is getting beaten, I get sad. And when the heroine gets kidnapped, I start crying. And then when the heroine is found, I get happy. And that's why, thank God, most movies have good ending, happy ending. So at least I leave the theater not crying, but leave happy. So that's what they're saying, that see this world as a movie, but do not get so involved and start crying, and enjoy the movie, watch the movie. But remember, the world is a movie. My true home is somewhere else. My true nature is somewhere else. So what happens is we become a bhokta, enjoyer. So instead of bhokta, become a drishta. Become a watcher. Watch the movie of this world. Do not take the world movie too seriously. And remember that that is not my true nature. That's what Bhagavan says. Neyam yattat pravakshyami. I'll tell you that which is to be known, which is you, your own nature, I am telling you. But these are little difficult ideas. We'll be covering them again next week. Does anybody have any questions, comments? How do you think? Anybody would like to add anything? Yeah, Govini auntie, go ahead.
I understood it was very clearly explained, but when you started that everything goes with us or something. I didn't catch it. If you can explain.
Oh yeah,
Your
okay.
opening sentence.
Yeah. All of you go or none of you go.
Yes.
That means in spirituality, all 4 aspects of my personality have to be involved. My body with service, my mind with love for God, my intellect with knowledge, my vasanas have to be reduced, and all aspects of my personality have to go towards God. You cannot say, I will only know him, but I won't serve him. Or I will serve him, but I don't need to read about him. I don't need to read. So all aspects, that's why they say we are body, mind, intellect, and the vasanas, the unmanifest, all of them have to be in the direction of God. So my whole personality, so that means, tan man dhan sab tera, we say that when we do the arth, tan man dhan sab tera, tera tujhko arpan kya lage mera, om jai jagdish hare. That means everything belongs to you, Bhagwan, and my body, my mind, my wealth, my money, everything I surrender to you. So in spirituality, the complete personality has to be, so like the river has to change its direction to go from going from the into the ocean, change it towards helping the world. How we divert the river, so that the water, instead of going into the ocean, now is going to serve the humanity. So similarly, my mind, all aspects of my mind, intellect, my body, everything has to be directed towards God. So that is called that all of you go or none of you go. You can't leave part of you there. Every aspect of my personality has to go towards God. That means I have to serve him with my body, with my mind I have to love God, with my intellect I have to know God, my vasanas I have to reduce, and then regular meditation, and with the right knowledge of what I am meditating on. Who is that I am meditating on? And that is my own inner self. So that is called all of you go or none of you go. You cannot leave a part of you there. Everything has to go towards God.
Thank you, Anilji Hari Om, for explaining this tough subject. It was really masterful. And of course, these 3 slokas that we talked about today, they require undivided attention and repetitious studies to really keep it with you. 100% of the time, I think.
Yes.
Especially number 13, the Gneyam part.
Right.
Well, about the tough one is the existing versus non-existing. Those are the hard concepts for our mind to grasp.
Yes.
But thanks for doing the masterful job on that.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, read Gurudev's commentary on it.
I read it twice, but we still need some repetition on that.
Right, right, right. It's
You
hard.
get it when you read it. Yeah, when you read it, you get it. But then, to keep it in your mind at all times,
Right.
it's or explain it to someone. It requires studies.
Yes, thank you. Now, I try to listen to 2 or 3 commentaries and then combine the ideas.
Right.
If you want to listen to these talks again, I'll put it on the
Right.
Gita chat. It's called firstpower.info. So please listen to it again,
Right.
because it took me a lot of study and reading to understand this. And
Sure.
I tried my best to explain to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lata, you have any comments, questions?
Sat and Asat, can you elaborate one more time?
Okay.
See, Satish Bhai said, and he assumed everybody understood it very clearly, not me.
Yeah. See, when you say many, Sat and Asat, we understand as cause and effect, or manifest and unmanifest. Sat means manifest, Asat means unmanifest. So that which was unmanifest will become manifest in the future, right? Like I was unmanifest,
Yeah.
before, and then I manifested in my mother's womb, then on the world, and then after a few years, I'll become. But Brahman is neither manifest nor unmanifest, because because those are both concepts of the mind, of the intellect. That I understand something as cause and something as effect, something as manifest, something, but no words can describe Brahman. No words can describe. These words can only indicate. So the moment you say it exists, then it is not true. And when you say not exist, because exist and non-exist, we understand as something is and something is not. But it is beyond is and is not. It is beyond both. Because Brahman is something that we cannot know. Like I said, if I ask you, was so and so in the class, but if I don't know this person, like my brother-in-law, then you cannot say whether he is or he's not. So Brahman, we do not know as an object. It is the knower. And so none of the scriptures can define it. Even the Upanishads cannot define it. Even the Vedas cannot define it or describe it. They are all indicators of the truth. They all indicate the truth, but they cannot describe the truth. So it is beyond all words. So understand it as that. But it is because of which I exist. But itself is beyond existence and non-existence.
And then in the next shloka in 14, he brings out again the big vision of his, with multiple mouths and hands and all that, like what we saw in chapter 11,
right.
Sort of recreated in that one shloka.
Yes.
To re-emphasize that point that I am that substratum on which all of this exists.
Right.
Okay.
But actually what he says is all hands and feet are mine, means all hands and feet function because of me.
Right.
I am the one that, because of me, all the creation happened, and because of me, the creation is now functioning. But I myself am not part of creation, and I myself don't do anything. But in my presence, everything happens. Like in the presence of gasoline, the car moves. The gasoline says, I don't push the piston, and I don't press the accelerator, and I don't press the brake. But without gasoline, the car would not move. But gasoline is the power because of which the gas is moving or the car is moving. So that's why electricity is because of which the heater is heating, the cooler is cooling. But the electricity says, I don't do anything, but in my presence, the heater is heating, cooler. See, all these examples are very limited, cannot explain that entire truth. So again and again listening and then repeating these ideas to myself and then thinking about them.
Sure.
And then ultimately owning that I am that truth. I am not separate from that truth.
Right.
Any other shlok, the 15th one, any other comments you had on any of the other shlok? Yeah, it is unattached, but supports everything. See, these are all difficult concepts. How can it be unattached and support everything? Like space. Space is not attached, but space supports everything. Like, for example, if it's raining, does the space get wet? No. If there is smoke, does the space get dirty? No. Air gets dirty. Smoke, the space doesn't get dirty. If it is if it's pollution, the space doesn't get polluted, air gets polluted. If there is bombs and explosions, it all does not affect space, but space supports everything. Space supports the earth, space supports all the planets. My house is in space, my body is in space, there is space inside, space outside. So space is the closest to the truth, to Brahman. If, for example, the best example would be using space. They use examples like electricity, like ocean, waves. So all these examples are limited, but all of them together point us in the direction of. So these rishis found it impossible to explain what Brahman is. That's why in Pranaji, one of the great rishis, says that this truth cannot be described by words, but I am trying my best so that you may also look for the truth. Why is the rishi doing that? Not to confuse us or not to get us, कि हमारा सिर चक्कर खवा दिया. अरे, I was sitting peacefully at home on Sunday. ये क्या मेरे को कर दिया, ना सत ना असत. Why don't you talk something about, Ramchandra ji ki nice story sunao, ya Bhagwan Krishna ki, what is this? The idea is that this truth is known to the rishis but cannot be put in words. So Sanskrit and the Vedas are the closest that it comes to the truth. And Bhagwan Sri Krishna has used the Vedas and the Upanishads and made it simple for us. The Bhagavad Gita is a simpler explanation of the Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads, but he's telling it to a common person like us, like Arjuna is like us. So the Upanishads are not that easy to understand. So this is also difficult, but it is. But after we finish Bhagavad Gita, I hope to start the Upanishads. Also on Tuesday, 12:30, we will be starting Upanishad class. So Dakshinamurti will end 2 more weeks. And then from that, after that, we are going to start study of the Upanishad on Tuesday at 12:30. And then also this Bhagavad Gita, of course, will go on for 5-6 years. But when it ends, then we'll do Upanishads also, different Upanishads. There are about several major Upanishads. So we'll try to cover them. So in that, the ideas are more subtle, but it is similarly explained. But thank you, all of you, for your comments. Thank you. Kerry, you have any comments or questions, please?
I didn't realize I was unmuted, but I was kind of thinking, all the talk about the mind and the senses and hands and feet and all that. I don't know, I start getting almost confused and I start thinking, well, without us, Brahma couldn't exist.
It's other way around.
Yeah.
We could not exist without Brahman.
He couldn't exist without us either. I don't know. It just, I started thinking that.
No, see, Brahman always was. Brahman cannot function without us. See, Brahman needs Maya to function. Because Brahman itself does not do anything. It needs the instrument of Maya to create the world. It needs this body, mind, intellect to function. But Brahman itself does not do anything. So Brahman does not need us. We need Brahman. Brahman was fine before we came and polluted this earth. We came and polluted the earth. Earth was fine without us. So Brahman doesn't need us. We need Brahman. God doesn't need us. We need God. God doesn't bother him whether you pray to him or not, whether you go to the temple 5 times or you go once a year. It doesn't make any difference to God. It is for us, for our benefit, that this knowledge has been given by him. So I think I have to develop humility. I need God. God does not need me. That I have to understand. God does not need our prayers. I pray for my benefit because it helps me. God doesn't get happy or unhappy if I pray, if I chant his name or doesn't chant. If I do Vishnu Sahasranama, it's not that Vishnu Bhagwan is getting happy. I am getting my mind quieter by chanting the name of the Lord. Lord doesn't need anything. You still have any questions? Anji.
Iskram, this means that God is within us, but
Yes.
we are not in him.
Yes, we are in him too.
We are in him too, because
Yes.
just he doesn't need us. So he's in us as a life force, but we are in him too.
Yes, in the next sloka it will come. He is inside and outside. Like
Okay.
space. Am I in space or is space in me? Let me ask you. Are you in space or space is in you?
I am in space.
And don't you have space inside your stomach?
Yes, I do.
In your chest, in your head,
Yeah.
everywhere
Yes,
we have
yes.
space. So
Yes.
space, like in the pot, is space inside the pot or outside the pot?
Inside,
And
outside too, because
both.
yeah,
Right.
both.
So same way, Brahman is inside and outside. The next shloka will come, Bahirantascha Bhutana. So
Okay.
space is inside us and outside us, and we are supported in space. Space is supporting us. So we are in God and God is in us. So actually God cannot leave us. Well, there is a famous story I'll tell you next week, where God cannot go away anywhere because God is always with us. Without God, we wouldn't exist. So, and God never abandons us.
I
We should
just
never-
kind of just question like, आया दिमाग में कि if we are in him or he's in us, so we should be in him. But
Yes.
just one clarification.
Right. Thank you. But he's everywhere. Everything is him.
All
Like
three.
this whole, he's in space, right? Next shloka will talk about that next week. Bahirantascha Bhutanam. He is inside me and outside me.
Okay. And the second part, as we, most of the time, like we talk about it, abhi batate ho, like Shravanam, Mananan, Nidhi, yes. Joe, like person like me, who is just at the first stage, Shravanam, Mananan, and it's not yet, I'm not there at the Nidhi, some stage, like properly, or am I still learning something? I am still learning. But
Yes.
my thing is just a very first step. Like even when I sit in meditation, unless I focus on a mantra, I try that for 5, 10 minutes. I'm not able to sit there without, confusion for 10 minutes. Only maybe for a few seconds, I'm able to focus on that mantra. After that, I am chanting the mantra, but I'm not able to focus on that. So am I on the right stairs?
Yes.
Though I'm a starting point, but am I
no,
okay?
Nobody of us is able to focus a whole 10 minutes, 20 minutes. A few seconds and then it goes. So the fact that you are sitting and chanting the mantra itself is great. Just keep on doing that. Just take a mala. If a mala will help. If you take a mala and with each bead you say Om Namah Shivaya, Shri Krishna Sharana. So what it will happen is it will help you to concentrate. So keep on doing that. That is very good. Keep on doing that, chanting the name of Bhagwan, and then see Bhagwan everywhere. And then third, you shift your attention to who is chanting. I am chanting. So who am I really? Am I just this lady, this female? No, I am the consciousness. So God is not only outside, God is inside. So that is meditation. So what you're doing is fine. So keep doing it. And also do it more. If you're doing 1 mala a day, next day start doing 2 malas and 3 malas. So the more time you spend. But if you are chanting a mantra, that's wonderful, whether it's Gayatri mantra or it's Om Namah Shivaya or whatever, any mantra. Which mantra do you normally chant?
I Gayatri.
Perfect.
Like
Yeah,
Gayatri mantra, whether I am formally sitting or not, just comes in my head all the time.
that's
It
very
just
good.
comes. Even just walking and even just sitting, watching TV, it just comes out. So it's Gayatri mantra mostly.
It's very good. But you know the meaning of the Gayatri mantra?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah. So what I can maybe we have 2 minutes. If the people are in a hurry, or I can explain. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Om is God's name. Bhu is earth. Bhuva is space. Swaha is heaven. So earth, space, and heaven. Tat Savitur Varenyam. Beyond that is the sun God, which is beyond all three. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. It illumines all the devas. Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. May it illumine my intellect also. And also you transfer Gayatri inward. That Bhu Bhuva Swaha is body, mind, and vasanas. So the light of consciousness, Tat Savitur Varenyam, is beyond all three. Is beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the vasanas. It is the Savitur, it is the light of consciousness within me. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, it is illumining my sense organs. And may it illumine my intellect, may it reveal itself to me. So you are chanting the Gayatri mantra not only for the sun god outside, but for the light of consciousness within. And by chanting, may that light reveal itself. May God reveal himself to me.
अभी एज ये आपने एक्सप्लेन किया, मुझे किसी ने इसका मतलब ऐसे बताया था, अगर आप 1 मिनट दो तो मैं क्विकली बताऊं.
Sure.
हाँ जी, तो उसने ये था कि गायत्री मंत्र ओम भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्. तूने हमें उत्पन्न किया, पालन कर रहा है तू, तुझसे पाते प्राण हम, दुख और कष्ट हरता है तू, तेरा महान तेज है, छाया हुआ सभी स्थान, सृष्टि की वस्तु में तू हो रहा है विद्यमान, तेरा ही करते ध्यान हम, मांगते तेरी दया. प्रभु हमारी बुद्धि को श्रेष्ठ मार्ग पर चला, वेद मार्ग पर चला. मुझे ऐसे किसी ने बहुत सिंपलीफाई मतलब बताया.
या बढ़िया, दैट्स वेरी गुड, बहुत अच्छा है.
तो मैंने उसी को याद किया, यही मैं मतलब फॉलो मतलब. तो
बहुत अच्छा है. इट इज वेरी गुड. आपने ही मुझे लाइफ दी है. सो आप भी लाइफ भी अंदर आप ही हैं. आप बाहर भी आप हैं और अंदर भी आप हैं. सी वो दैट इज यू जस्ट हैव टू ट्रांसफर इट विद इन, दैट्स ऑल. नहीं, बहुत अच्छा है. What I told you is the Sanskrit meaning, the word by word translation. But आपका जो essence है बढ़िया है. There's no problem.
वो थोड़ा सिंपलीफाई है तो मुझे पूरी तरह याद हुआ है, इसलिए
बढ़िया.
हाँ जी, थैंक यू.
बहुत अच्छा है वो. हाँ, करते रहिए आप. जस्ट कीप डूइंग इट. जो एनीवे जो भी इस जितना भी भगवान की तरफ मन लगे, वो कहते हैं ना, जितनी चीनी डालो उतनी चाय मीठी होगी. सो जितना आप टाइम भगवान में लगाओगे उतना आपका जीवन मीठा होगा. Your life will become sweeter the more you spend with God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do the closing prayer. Hansa Ben, can you do the Aarti, please?
Om na tatra surya bhanti na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tvameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Om Arati Shri Chinmaya Sadguru ki दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की, आरती सद्गुरु की। चरणों में उनके शांति समाए, शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए, पाप ताप संताप हरण की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया, धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया, शुद्ध नीति कृति शंकर की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। सिद्ध बाड़ी की तपोभूमि में, नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे, भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की।
बोलिए श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की,
जय।
जय
बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज
राज की जय।
कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा भूतात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभाव, करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णं मुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तो निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
Hari Om. Thank you so much. Hari Om. See you next Sunday.